I did a show at the BFI on Monday, and we had on the director of a film called On Body and Soul, Ildiko Iñárritu. And one of the things that I did was I asked her to describe what the film was about. And as she was describing, I'd seen it already, but it's quite hard to describe. And she was sort of trying to describe it. And I said to the audience, I'm going to have such fun explaining to Simon Mayo what this film is about on Friday. And gales of laughter around the room. So, okay.
I'm glad to have been a part of your show.
Yes, or the nub of its joke. So Ildiko Iñárritu won the Camera d'Or for her first feature in 1989, and this new film, On Body and Soul, won the top prize at Berlin, the Golden Bear. It is basically a strange and ethereal love story set against the backdrop of an abattoir, which doesn't make it sound immediately like something that you want to rush out and see. Andre is a manager at the abattoir who keeps his emotions close to his chest. In an early scene, he's interviewing a new recruit, and he asks if the new recruit feels sorry for the animals, and the new recruit says, no, I don't feel like anything at all. And he says, well, in that case, you probably don't want to work here. It's not going to work out. Enter Maria, who is a quality control manager who has been sent to monitor the hygiene at the plant. She's very, very private. She's completely removed from all sort of social interaction. She seems to show very little emotion and doesn't appear to understand how the normal vagaries of just, human tittle-tattle and conversation work. Her work is just the same. It's completely methodical. She starts labelling all the beef that they're producing as mid-range rather than superior, because she says, well, the cattle are slightly too fat. And somebody says, well, how can you tell the cattle are slightly too fat? She says, well, I can see. It's like a millimetre of extra fat that they shouldn't have. He says, well, you can tell that. She says, yes, I can tell that. It also turns out that she can remember every single conversation that she's had in order. So she has some kind of, obsessive attention to detail, but apparently almost no natural sense of how to connect with people. In fact, almost a sort of pathological fear of connecting with people. So these two characters working in an environment which is, hostile and unrelenting, because of the nature of what it is. And yet, somehow they start to form a relationship. And the relationship is based on the fact that they realise that they're having the same dreams. They're both having a dream about a frozen forest in which there are two deer, a stag and a doe, is it? And they have the same dream about them coming down through the trees, finding a stream and drinking water from the stream. And as they're drinking water, their noses touch. And they understand that these animals are deeply bonded. And they suddenly start to realise that they're having the same dream, different perspectives on the same dream, different, characters on it. But somehow this relationship is happening through their dream states. And I asked Ildiko Iñárritu, I said, what do you think the film is about? And she said, well, the way she would describe it, that it's a shy love story. She says it's a love story about people who are sort of pathologically shy but are finding some kind of connection through some completely left field form of, almost like an astral plane connection. I also asked her whether she was a vegetarian, because the film is set in an abattoir, and certainly, although the film is discreet about the act of actually killing animals, it's set in an abattoir, so there's a lot of carcasses, there's a lot of meat, there's a lot of stuff which, if you are vegetarian, you're going to find alarming. She said, I'm not a vegetarian, but I eat very, very little meat, but I wanted the backdrop of this to exist, because what I wanted was to not ignore it. I wanted to be about the fact that this is something which is going on. And she was contrasting, on the one hand, the dream state story of the deer who are running free in the forest and are, in this kind of almost idyllic environment, with what's happening with these other animals who, whether you like it or not, this is happening. And if you're not a vegetarian, if you're a carnivore, this is leading to how the food gets onto your plate. I was thinking as well of Simon Amstell and that film that he made, Carnage, for the BBC iPlayer, which I thought was a terrific piece of work. And my feeling about the film was this. When I was watching it, at first I thought, okay, it's a film which is set in an abattoir and I'm going to find this difficult. But I did think that she handled the material sensitively. I also thought that the dawning love story was very, very engaging. And the way in which the film played off these two different worlds, the harsh, stark, brutal cruelty of one with this sort of ethereal, imaginative dream state of the other, something which is absolutely heightened by both the cinematography and also the sound design, the way in which the sound design juxtaposed these two different worlds. And during the course of the movie, despite the fact that it has some stuff in it that is alarming and some stuff in it that is quite causes you to step back, you find your way into these characters and you find your way into this growing relationship and you find your way into this strange, almost fable-like world. I like the film very, very much. I've seen it a couple of times now because, as I said, I interviewed the director on stage, who I found charming and witty and engaging. And the second time round with the film, when I knew where it was going, it was kind of useful because I found it easier to get into it. But it's a really unusual piece of work, sort of surreal and fantastical, but also very down to earth and oddly touching, despite the subject and the environment that it deals with.